The meat and potatoes of Buick GMC, right, is the GMC Sierra 1500. It's a full redesign on the T12 platform. We haven't seen a full refresh of the Sierra 1500 in the last 7 years, but we should be seeing new engines and a whole host of new technology.
But if you want something that drives well and that hits everything, GM never fails. I'm gonna be a huge fan of this hybrid, honestly. Gas it fluctuates, but being able to get 30 to 40 miles to the gallon on just a typical sedan hybrid, imagine what our trucks can get.
If I could describe it in one word, it is saucy. It is quiet. It is comfortable. You can get one now, a fully loaded Avenir with self-driving and massaging seats and all that kind of good stuff, and it's only going up like 10 grand. Hey everybody, welcome back to Behind the Wheel with Union Park Buick GMC. My name is Greg Lashbrook. I'm the general manager here, and I have with me today Javier Avila. He's one of our top sales associates. We're going to be talking about new Buick and GMC products and why to buy. Anyway, so the first thing that we're going to be talking about today is new Buick and GMC products and what we have currently in stock, what we have coming down the pipeline, and what we're hoping to see here in end of 2026. As a 2027 model. So the meat and potatoes of Buick GMC, right, is the GMC Sierra 1500. And I've got a few things that the manufacturer has kind of leaked. We have a few specs, a few things on the new redesign. Haven't had a full redesign for the generation in 7 years. So we're pretty excited about this stuff. Some of the things that they've got, it's a full redesign on the T12 platform. And like I said, we haven't seen a full refresh of the Sierra 1500 in the last 7 years. We've seen a facelift. They did that in 2024, right?
I would say 2020.
2024. No, 2022. 2022 was the refresh. That was when they redid the front fascia, new headlights. I think they updated the taillights a little bit and they did the brand new interior, but they haven't changed anything since the 2019 platform. So, but this should be a bigger one than we even saw in 2019 because for the last, I don't even know, since I've worked here, and I've been here for 10 years, we've had the 5.3 V8, the 6.2 V8, and they brought out the 3-liter diesel, the small diesel, the Duramax, the small Duramax, and the 2.7 Turbo Max. So, but we should be seeing new engines and a whole host of new technology. So this hasn't been verified by anybody yet. They haven't released it yet. I'm hoping actually to see some of this stuff when we go out to the global business meeting in March, but so far it looks like the 5.3 liter V8 will be going away and we'll be seeing a 5.7 liter iteration of that small block, as well as an upgrade from the 6.2 liter V8 to either a 6.6 or a 6.7 liter V8. There's also been rumors of a hybrid powertrain. I'm not sure what that will be connected to, if it'll be connected to more than one of the small block V8s. But either way, I'm pretty excited about it because, like I said, since I've been here, I've seen these have been the engine options. And there have been a lot of new engine options from Ford and from Ram. And, we've had the same ones for quite some time with the same power output. So, and everybody's had their host of issues with, their specific platforms. But I think with the CAFE standards being kind of toned down a little bit and fuel mileage and all that kind of good stuff being taking a little bit of a backseat, we should see some really, really interesting powertrains here moving forward. So, Javier, what's one of your favorite powertrains currently? Let's talk a little bit about the 2026 and what we still have. So, if you were going to drive a new Sierra 1500, what would be the spec that you would get?
That's a hard one. I mean, everything has its little bells and whistles. I mean, I can be the typical guy, get a Denali, but I mean, with 450 horsepower, I don't tow. So I'm going to be your typical Denali guy who has a lovely pavement princess and never tow anything. I think I'm just going to stick to the Ohm is reliable in the 5.3. And then the SLT, I'm a chrome guy. I like the chrome. I like the chrome to stand out with an Onyx Black Sierra 1500. I'm basic, so I don't need nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, what do you drive? You did drive the 5.3 Elevation before.
Yeah, I've had three of them. I've had a 5.3. I've had a 6.2. I've never had a diesel, but I definitely would. So our powertrains currently, right? We have the 5.3, 355 horsepower, 383 foot-pounds of torque. That's the tried and true, tested, old, reliable. It's been around for decades. And I really like that engine. When they made that to the 10-speed in 2019, I thought to myself, wow, this is all the power that you really need for a daily driver. But they've gotten so excessive with the horsepower numbers from some of these new vehicles that you get into a new one and it makes that feel like you're driving a horse and buggy. So I've had two 5.3s with the 10-speed, and I really like that powertrain. They have just the standard active fuel management where it goes from an 8-cylinder to a 4-cylinder. We don't see as many lifter issues in the 5.3. So it's been pretty reliable. I really like that engine. I actually had one that was a COVID truck that had no cylinder deactivation. Suffered on gas mileage a little bit, but the overall reliability I felt like was maybe a little bit better for some of the proponents, and I like that a lot. But I would go with a 6.2 all day. And they've had the recall came out for the 2021 to the 2024s. We're in 2026. I oversee the service department, so they've definitely made leaps and strides to make sure that that powertrain is a more reliable powertrain. And I would buy that one 10 times out of 10. 420 horsepower, 460 foot-pounds of torque. They all come mated with the dual active exhaust now. Leave it in sport mode, leave the baffles open. It's phenomenal. You're not buying one for gas mileage, but what's the price of gas right now? I mean, regular's what, 2 and some change, and I don't know. I don't even know if I don't know if premiums dipped into the threes really. I drive an EV right now. My wife has the 6.2, so I don't really know what the price of premium is right now, but it's worth it. It's miles per gallon, not miles per gallon. Every time. Never forget that. And there's no replacement for displacement. So one of the things that we were talking about just earlier was, why would you buy a Sierra over a Ford? Why would you buy a Sierra over a Chevy? Why would you buy a Sierra over a Ram? And really each trim level has its own kind of advantages to it. We don't really get into why buy a Sierra over a Chevrolet too often, because at each price point, it's really only ever it's less than $1,000. If you do apples to apples, right, trim to trim, package to package, you're never really going to pay more than like $1,000 more for a GMC than a Chevy if they're similarly equipped, right? Obviously, the GMC has more standard equipment at each trim level, and you're going to have nicer quality materials. But it's not until you get up to the AT4Xs, the Denali Ultimates, that you start to see the quality, the materials, the amenities go to a point that's beyond the Chevy where the price point is justified then, right? So we don't really get into too much of that, right? Because that's our younger cousin, the Chevrolet. But for the Ram and the Ford, Ram makes a really good product right now. I know they're getting back to the Hemi. I think it was an easy sell on the Sierra over the Ram over the last couple of years. Where they kind of went away from the Hemi and they had that twin turbo Hurricane engine, which is a nice engine, but I've never met a truck guy that didn't just want a V8. If that's what you're looking for, obviously there's different, you get your 2.7 and your 3-liter and all that stuff. But if you're just going, Hemi to 6.2 or 5-liter to 6.2, it was a pretty easy win over the Ram. And then the Ford, they went to the small displacement engines, super turbocharged. I don't know how else to say it, but if you compare a Ford to a Sierra, they don't feel as substantial on the road. And that's really comes from that low end torque that you get from the bigger displacement engines. It drives heavier because it is heavier. Um, and I know that Ford marketed that as, it's aluminum chassis and smaller displacement engines, it's more fuel efficient and all that kind of good stuff. But the driving dynamic is lost when you do that. So I always tell people to come in and they're looking at a Ford and they're kind of comparing it to a Sierra, SLT, Denali, whatever. I say, go drive it. You come back, you let me know. You let me know which one you think drives better. And when you get in the refinement of the materials and the quality of the interior. And if they come back and they tell me, oh, I really prefer the Ford over this, I say, no problem. But I've never had that happen. So
Being on the sales floor for a little bit over now, a year and some change now, I have never had that. The one thing that I can say that really stands out with just GM in general is just that driving feeling. I mean, even with the new steering wheel that they have implemented in all of our vehicles, that thicker steering wheel, I'm a person who likes to have control over all the vehicles, and just being able to get behind something and know that, first of all, truck is massive. Let's just say, and if you're going to go down to a 2.7, you might as well just go get the Canyon, honest. But with a 5.3 with so much horsepower, the 450, even on the 6.2s, you're going to want full control. And being able to be behind that wheel and actually know that, okay, this drives phenomenal. It has all the bells and whistles that more than what anyone should ever really need. But being able to just maintain the truck on the road and know that this is my truck and I own this lane is great. I've driven Fords. I got friends who work at Fords. I've driven their trucks, and I never bash other companies. Phenomenal trucks. But if you want something that drives well and that hits everything, GM never fails.
Absolutely. So one of the other things I want to talk about, like the new powertrains coming out. And again, we don't have confirmed numbers on any of this stuff. I'm hoping to get it sometime in the next month. But it looks like the 5.3 going to the 5.7. It says the target horsepower. Well, I guess
could push 500 horsepower.
Yeah,
but I would think that would be for the 6.2.
Yeah, so it doesn't really confirm which one of these is for, but it looks like 450 horsepower and 490 foot-pounds of torque on the big block, which would be like the 6.6 or the 6.7. But they say it could push upwards of 500 horsepower. I know when they kind of brought this out, they talked about how much GM invested like $2 billion in engine plants to make sure that so while everybody was going to small displacement engines and hybrid powertrains and all that stuff, GM invested a ton of money in small block V8s. So I was really excited for that because that's, again, it's just tried and true and reliable. And it really is one of the driving characteristics as to why you buy a truck. It's the same reason why do you buy a Suburban or a Tahoe or a Yukon or a Yukon XL or an Escalade over a unibody platform, which is, a hybrid or a V6, or look at our Enclave or Arcadia. They have almost the same amount of interior space as they do a Yukon, but if you can afford the Yukon, you buy the Yukon every time. And a lot of that comes down to driving dynamics of a V8. You know what I mean? You can't replace it. It's like trying to make a smaller wheelbase platform drive like a long wheelbase platform. It's just physics. So, but I'm excited for that. Also, the plug-in hybrid V8. So it says it's been confirmed by Mary Barra, which is an electric and a V8 together. Your thoughts on hybrid powertrains, right? Like we'll touch on the EV thing here in a little bit, but what are your thoughts on for a truck, right? Because we've had the EVs, we've had the Sierra EV, we've had the Hummer. Hummer was a little bit of a novelty item, right? You kind of either wanted to drive something that was huge and more of a statement piece than anything, or you didn't. But the Sierra EV was very comparable in size and capability, maybe not range, whatever, to a Sierra 1500. So what are your thoughts on that? Would you go V8? Would you go hybrid powertrain? Would you go full EV? Or do you think that Ford had it right with going with a smaller displacement and adding, forced induction, turbochargers, things like that?
I've been following Miss Mary for quite some time now. I've seen the transition where at a time. She said by 2030, 2035, we were supposed to go completely EV. They took a step back. I think this is going to be a huge redesign for GM. I'm going to be a huge fan of this hybrid, honestly. You're going to get best of both worlds. You're still going to kind of fall in that old Miss Reliable, get everything you're looking for. But the hybrid, you just can't beat the hybrid. Gas it fluctuates. But being able to get 30 to 40 miles to the gallon on just a typical sedan hybrid, imagine what our trucks can get. So if we're getting your typical 19 average, probably going to be a little closer to 25, 26. It's going to be more affordable for a lot of people who drive these vehicles on a daily basis. So I just hope, the hybrids come out really good and they don't fail. Like for example, Toyota is doing phenomenals on the hybrids on their sedans. And I know GM, we went completely on the EV Sierra mode. It's just too much. It's like the crab walk. What's the point of the crab walk?
It's cool.
It's cool. It's good to have, but I've never used it on the road. So I feel like that was an investment that we did to show that GM has the capabilities of doing so much. So if whatever you believe, you can accomplish with GM, I can assure you on that. But let's take a step back and let's stick to the hybrids. Let's see if that's going to be the next future. And if, it does well, then we can slowly start going back into the EVs.
Yeah, like the power boost engine that's in the Ford. It's the 3.5 twin turbo that's like their high output engine, and then they mated that to a hybrid powertrain. I think it's like 500 and some horsepower. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's cool. It would be cooler if it was a 6.7 liter V8 with a hybrid. That's like I look at the new Lamborghinis that came out, right? Like totally off in right field here. But it's a naturally aspirated V12 paired to a electric motor, just kind of like the Corvette E-Ray, naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8 mated with a hybrid technology. I really like those. I've had a Hummer, so I've gone full electric. I've also had numerous Sierras with V8s and Tahoes and all that kind of stuff.
We've had an E-Ray here as well.
Yeah, and I really like it. It's so funny because when I think back to like the early 2000s and I think back to my first perspective, granted, it was like a Toyota Prius, right? That was how hybrids came out, and that's the perspective a lot of people look through for the hybrid powertrains. But it's so good. You don't get any, if you like a loud exhaust or you like a nice exhaust note, you don't get any forced induction that kind of reduces that or muffles that. Like Porsche 911 Turbo S, right? Sounds like a vacuum cleaner compared to a GT3 RS, right? Sounds like the heavens have come down. Zeus himself. Same thing with this, right? If you put a turbocharger or something like that on any of these engines, yeah, a little bit more efficient and whatever, but keeping it naturally aspirated and then going with the hybrid technology to get the better fuel economy, especially if they come out with a full EV mode, right, where you can like kind of putz back and forth to work in full electric mode, but then have the power and the capability and the range when you add the V8 powertrain into it. I think that would be really cool. We'll see how they go with this. I mean, I'm hoping if it's anything like the E-Ray, I was a big fan of the E-Ray. I think that's really cool. I could go without some of the noise that they pipe in, right? I don't need to feel like I'm like Back to the Future. So I'd be okay on that. But if they do bring that out, I think that would be a really cool way for them to continue to reduce emissions, keep the mile per gallon standards high, and still give people what they want: a naturally aspirated small block, big block V8, and a reliable powertrain. So I'm really excited to see kind of what those look like, and I hope that we see that soon. So the other thing they spoke about, so this should be on dealer lots by fall of 26. And the only other thing that I really have, I mean, they're doing, we should see the full, redesign of the interiors. They're doing that vertical touchscreen that you see in a lot of the other GMC products, which has been really nice. I don't have information on whether they're going away from the Apple CarPlay or not, which they did in some of the EV models. I don't know if they're doing that on these new trucks or not. I'm hit or miss on that. I mean, some of the new technology that GM has with I believe it's called the Ultify software that's integrated into their screens and everything. We'll see how that goes, right? I haven't driven a car without Apple CarPlay in a long time, so I would certainly be one of the people that was a little like, I don't know, because it's pretty good. You know what I mean?
But it's very similar to the same people who drive the 5.3s, the 6.2s, and you're like, hey, we got this 2.7. And they're like, turbo, we don't want it. But I can say Monticello, part of the training, we lined the 5.3 and the 2.7, and I was in shock that the 2.7 kept up with the 5.3.
Yep.
100%. I was in the 0 to 60. I mean, the 5.3 got a little head start.
It was still about a car length behind, but it was still really impressive nonetheless. And you think of a inline 4-cylinder, a full size truck, and you're like, it sounds terrible, but it still tows like 8,800 pounds. So it's a really good way to get into the segment, especially if you're looking for a lease, a budget friendly option, something that still has all the capability, better fuel economy. It just doesn't give you all the intangibles like what we've talked about with, driving a V8 truck, but to each his own, right? What else we have? We wanted to touch on the Buicks a little bit. Do you have? I've got the Enclave. So touching on the Enclave a little bit, right? It's like our hidden gem, our 3-row SUV hidden gem. And one of the things we were talking about earlier is like, what do you compare an Enclave to, and what do you think of when you say Buick Enclave? It's the stereotypical, like your grandma's grandpa's Buick. When I hear Buick Enclave, I sold them new in 2016, and that was a grandpa car. I mean, it was not, nobody my age at that time came in to look at a Buick Enclave. I'm okay saying that. That was the targeted segment. That was the demographic that we sold to, and it is much different today. I had somebody come in that was comparing they were looking at Yukon, they were driving an XC90, and they had like one other vehicle that they were looking at, and I was like, can you just humor me for a second? And I had a Buick Enclave Avenir, moonstone gray with the whisper beige with the navy on the top, and I said, you just got to go look at it. If I could describe it in one word, it is saucy. You're gonna love it. And she went out and she looked at it, and she came back in and she was like, do I like a Buick? And I was like, absolutely. Let's take it for a drive. And it was a new Buick customer, right? So they're a lot different, than they were even 5-6 years ago. And what do you compare that to, right? Because one of the things we were talking about earlier is Buick is a premium brand. It's not a luxury brand, it's a premium brand. If you want a luxury brand, that's Cadillac for General Motors. You compare that to BMW that doesn't have, an entry-level car, or Mercedes that doesn't have an entry-level car. A premium car is generally a vehicle that's been outfitted with more premium materials, a few more amenities. So you think Acura to Honda, right? You'd compare it to like an Acura MDX, or Infiniti to Nissan, QX60, somewhere around that, or a Lexus to a Toyota. You wouldn't really compare it to a Ford or a Nissan, or because that would be more of our Chevrolet brand. So you look at an Enclave, and I actually had one of our AI friends here kind of print out a competitive comparison, and it was really interesting to look through, an Enclave compared to a Hyundai Palisade or a Honda Pilot or a Kia Telluride. It put the Chevy Traverse in there, but again, we don't really compete against them. The Mazda CX-90 and the Acura MDX. And across the board, it's so hard because anymore you could get it. They all have leather. They all have cross stitching. They all have panoramic roofs. They all have the safety features. They all have heated and cooled seats. Not many of them have massaging seats. None of them have not full autonomous driving. None of them have anything that's comparable to our Super Cruise, right? Which is hands-free driving on. What they bumped it to? It was 400,000 miles. They bumped it to, I think it's close to 800,000 miles of interstate and highway in the United States and Canada. And it's a great, obviously it depends on the person. Some people don't even like using cruise control, but you get used to it. I've had Super Cruise in my personal vehicle for the last 7 months, first vehicle that I had with it. And I could tell you, I have not driven on 95 in 7 months. All hands free. It's lovely. It's lovely. So you look at this and it's like, well, then why buy a Buick Enclave over any of the competition? And I think it's very subjective at this point, but I think it's something that I always tell, I'm like, at least come give it a chance. Come give it a try. Cause you look at like, it's got a 2.5 4-cylinder, right? It's highly turbocharged, but it's 328 horsepower, tows over 5,000 pounds. It comes with a twin disc all-wheel drive system that's very sophisticated and kind of it's comparable to what you'd find in like a Subaru, right? Heated, cooled, massaging seats, safety tech. I mean, when you go through the infotainment center and you look at the pedestrian braking and the sideline zone alert, it not only detects vehicles but also motorcycles as well. It has intersection mitigation, so it can see cross traffic coming through an intersection and preliminarily apply the brakes to try to mitigate or prevent a crash. Rear cross traffic, it lets you know when there's cross traffic coming behind you. It can apply the brakes when you're backing up as well. It's a very advanced system, and you make that with the Super Cruise. I mean, it's just, if you get in an accident in one of those cars, you probably shouldn't be driving. I don't know if I can say that.
Speaking from experience, my wife, she drives the Buick Envision. So it's one step down from the Enclave. And this morning, taking her to work, she works, she's an RN, and driving this car cut me off. And the aggressiveness that this Buick Enclave, I'm on the highway, we're going like 40, 50, because there's low traffic, we're merging. The way this vehicle just slammed its brakes, and my wife yelled at me. I live in a Hispanic household, so I got a few hits from her. She smacked me a couple times yelling at me, and I'm like, that wasn't me. That was the car. Right. So like, the Buick comeback is real. I can definitely tell you that. And going back to the Buick Enclave, that is the best mom car on the market. I can vouch for it. The 3 rows, just what you get on the Buick Enclave is phenomenal. I mean, compared to the Hondas, the Kias, you're getting more space. All right, that's probably the biggest thing. When you're a mom, you want all the space in the world.
Less space than like a Yukon or a Tahoe.
Which is shocking, but for the price point, I mean, you can go get a Yukon and you're looking at the 70s, 80s, I mean, even 90s. Or you can save yourself over 30, 40 grand and get yourself an Enclave that, for example, has a key card. Only vehicle I know that has a key card is a Tesla right now. Just tap the door, and that key card is actually your key. You can start the vehicle and you have about 10 to 15 minutes before it resets itself. So if you are driving an Enclave, congrats to you. If you aren't, come on down to Union Park. I can assure you we have a few in stock. It's going to surprise you, and I'm going to be your salesperson, just letting you know. I'm going to sell you the car. And this also goes with,
you got it.
You know, Greg just said the infotainment screen. The 30-inch screen is phenomenal. I mean, now with the Apple CarPlay, if that gets transitioned over to the 27s, we don't know yet. But even if it doesn't, the built-in Google is phenomenal. I drive and I'm like, hey, Google, take me home. And the vehicle just does its thing, pops up, and you get it right in front of you. And you can still listen to your music. And I just learned something recently. You put the vehicle in park, and you can actually watch YouTube. You can watch Netflix. Mm-hmm. You can watch Hulu. I mean, this thing is keeping up with technology. Yeah, and I can compare it. It's a long shot, but I like to compare this vehicle to, like you said, the Lexuses, the Lexus TX, or your BMWs. The technology that's in those vehicles are now in your Buicks at a price point that won't break your pocket. Yep. And that is phenomenal.
Absolutely. You don't give up any of the luxury amenities, any of the creature comforts. One of the things that I always tell people when they're looking at a Buick, I'm like, they've stayed true to their roots. One thing, it's not the best handling car in the world, right? It's not, you're not going to take it on track, even though we have. It's not the fastest car in the world, but it has Buick's active noise cancellation, quiet tuning, right? Which no other vehicle in that segment has. Laminated driver, passenger side glass, triple sealed doors. It is quiet. It is comfortable. It is a supple, smooth ride. That's what Buick's always been, and that still reigns true today. And those are kind of the selling points. It's like, if you're looking for something quiet, comfortable, that has all the technology, that has all the luxury amenities at a price point that doesn't, command a luxury make model, that's what the Buick is. And it's good. It's good. It's definitely worth, and they've redesigned the styling too. I mean, when they first came out with the Enclave with this facelift, it commands a presence on the road that a Buick Enclave never had. I mean, and realistically, when we were selling these new in 2016, 2017, they were still $53,000. You can get one now, a fully loaded Avenir with self-driving and massaging seats and all that kind of good stuff, and it's only going up like 10 grand. You're in the low 60s for something fully loaded when everything else on the market feels like it's doubled in price. So it's definitely a good, and not to say that $60,000 isn't a lot of money, it still is, but comparatively, it's still, a really good deal. And we have great deals on these vehicles in stock. Union Park savings along with the manufacturer's incentives and rebates. So we're always super competitive with our pricing on those.
I can tell you, when I have a customer who comes in that showroom floor, gets greeted phenomenally like family, and they say, "Hey, have you driven the Enclave?" And they hit me with that's my grandma or grandpa car. I'm like, would you want your grandparents driving a car that's not reliable and that's not safe? And they're like, no. Well, let me show you the new technology, because now Buick has this whole redesign that is bringing in and pulling in young buyers. This is starting from the Invista, which is a phenomenal, sleek, your little crossover sedan, you can say. You get all the space for someone's first car,
Under 30 grand.
that is the way to go. I mean, that is probably one of the toppest vehicle on the market right now. You can go on a highway and you're going to be able to tell, oh, that's an Invista.
Number 2,
That's an
initial
Invista.
quality, JD Power Associates.
So even with just the vehicles itself, with the high-end safety features, with the technology, I mean, the shift to put the vehicle in park and drive, it reminds me of a Mercedes-Benz.
Yep.
It's actually, you got to pull in, pull down, and I'm like, okay, we're keeping up. And they pulled me, they got me.
Yep.
So I drive a Buick Envista with my wife.
Yep. Envision, don't sell yourself a little short there.
Yeah, the Envision.
Thank you guys again for joining us today. We appreciate your support. Visit us online at Union Park, BuickGMC.com, or come see us in person at 1800 Pennsylvania Avenue here in lovely Wilmington, Delaware. Look forward to seeing you again next time.